Okay, we are good to go. How are you doing today?
Well, if one, I'm beautiful. And you?
Good, I'm doing great. I did receive an assignment from you, I believe. Yes, I did. So, what would you like to discuss today?
Yeah, there's not much, but I'm looking forward to what you mentioned, the role plays and all that. So, and I've been meaning to ask, is it anything from anywhere, anything, must it be in a clinical setting?
Ask the question again. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Well, the role play, you know,
Yes.
you know, so must the experience be from, can it be from anywhere or must it be from the clinical setting alone?
For the role play that we're going to do together tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
it will be in that setting. So a student will be paired, two people will be paired. One will be the spiritual caregiver, one the spiritual care receiver, and the spiritual caregiver may start, "How are you doing today?" It's going to be in that setting, and then the person will respond. So the role play isn't created before you come, it unfolds live in real time in our group.
Yeah, but the context, that's what I'm trying to,
If you if you want us to imagine a different context, you can
Mhm.
say that. If you
Okay,
want it to simply be the context of the class, it can be that as well.
okay, okay. Oh,
Thank you.
that's it.
That's a great clarification.
And if you notice in my report, I was trying to say a few things, how I understood triangulation, but I said no. I'll bring it out while we meet today so that you can, help me. Because in that encounter, there was no third party, you know, but the care recipient, my patient was trying to talk about her neighbors, and at some point she started talking about her daughter,
Yes.
but she wouldn't want me to, engage her in the now or what she's going through, what emotion, what's happening to her. She wouldn't bring out that. So, and I was feeling that she was bringing, deflating the issues, to bring out those. That's why I try to categorize it as a third party triangulation,
Ah,
but I don't know if I got it wrong, but that was how I perceived it, and I talked about it a little bit. I said, no, during this encounter, maybe you can help me.
did you send this to me or can you show it to me?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it
I,
in your
I, I
outcomes?
sent, yes, I sent it to your mail.
Okay, I have your outcomes and indicators right here.
Mhm.
So this is your third unit.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
all right. So let's see. Do you have, is the one under category C?
Mhm. Well, I'm using my iPhone. Okay, so on my laptop, I think. Okay, let me see if I can. Yeah.
Okay, I am looking through it. I don't see it on the outcome indicator tracking document. Was it in the weekly reflection instead? I'm
Yes,
weekly.
there is weekly, exactly.
Oh, okay. So I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay. Got it. I'm pulling it up right now. All right. I'm on two different screens, so I'm not able to show it to you on this screen, but is I can see it myself clearly. So the triangulation, I see you've talked about that under your theory.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. Okay. So what you described here sounded more like deflection.
Yeah,
Yeah, I that makes sense. Okay. I did a good job of not letting myself get sucked in by patience triangulation attempts. Okay. So when you look back over the scenario, do you think your intervention worked?
yeah, to some extent, because I I'm happy you used that word, when I look back, because I came and I shared with my team. So we now dug deep into the patient, and they now, even though they described her situation as she was grieving and grieving the loss of her husband,
Yes.
it never came up, during the conversation. She didn't talk about her grief. So we now discovered also uh, from other uh, chats on her that she is struggling with alcoholism.
Hmm.
So, and that's finally because I had left the scene of the encounter. Okay. So I said, oh, was that why she wanted to talk about else things rather than talk about herself? You know?
Right. Excellent. It
Mm.
seems like you did a great job in your awareness of the triangulation and maintaining your own professional, spiritual, grounded presence. I mean, I think that was great. And your self supervision was excellent as well. How she mentioned the neighbors a few you mentioned your neighbors a few times. Can you tell me about that?
No, she was the person that brought, mentioned the neighbors, the circumstances that brought her, why she and how she came to the hospital, how the neighbors were nice to her and they're the only, her support system, you know, and all
Right.
that. So, but that was all her attempt to, she didn't want to focus on herself. And she went on and on bringing these characters.
Right,
And
right. And I wonder if it's helpful to try to create an open-ended question around some of that. Like, where do you find strength right now? To see if you can bring her into the current moment. What helps you feel connected to your husband's memory? Like you said, you learned these some things later. Um, do you think that would be helpful?
This is a good insight.
Okay,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
good. I think you did a really good job of staying out of the triangulation. And I think your awareness that she's deflecting was a good assessment. So if someone is deflecting, what meaning, they're telling the story of others to avoid telling their own, what might the unmet spiritual need be?
Probably is it they're hiding something? Is it they are afraid, they have some fears, probably.
Okay,
You know, and
that's
those,
helpful. So maybe that her behavior reflects hiding, maybe it reflects fear, maybe it reflects a lack of trust. Those
okay,
are all excellent dynamics that you're guessing at, which is great. I think that's good awareness. It could be any of that and all of it, right? Or none of it. Okay. So, what would your intervention be based on that dynamic? What if she is afraid and doesn't trust and is hiding? What's your intervention for that?
well, if my probing questions have brought some of these things to light, I could still go the same route by, you know, with the open-ended question like you suggested, yes, and the person has opened up this much, then I could pick pick up from there and maybe do some empathizing. Oh, if you must be dealing with so much. That must
Mm,
be difficult, you know.
mhm.
Then from there you lead to finding what the person had his or her coping, mechanisms will be. Sometimes in religion, sometimes their spirituality, what it is. If you now find that anchor, probably will build from there.
Oh, that's
And
helpful. I think that would be very impactful. And I appreciate your care if someone is triangulating or using triangulation or deflecting to avoid addressing something, directly addressing it may be too much. So maybe she's using it, the way she's managing her grief could be the the deflecting. So if you were to directly come at it, that would not demonstrate empathy and it might be too aggressive. So I love that approach. I think that's very helpful. Very helpful. And would allow you to build trust and maybe lower some of her fear and anxiety that might open up an opportunity for her to really address her grief a little more directly or address the alcoholism a little more directly. Empathy. I love it. And I love your gentle approach. So, yeah, for your specific question, I think you've named it well. We haven't, we've talked a little bit about, no, we haven't talked about attachment theory. So that one might
no,
be a helpful theory too, but I don't think we've talked about that.
attachment to
I love your self awareness. I love your self supervision. Your description of the behavior is very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Excellent. These BDTILs are not easy. So, what were some of your learnings?
Well, it helped me to, if you are looking at the, what do you call it, the uh, tracking,
Yes.
uh, growth tracking and all that. So I could see where I had those growing edges, and also I could see where it was possible for me to make success of the situation. Especially like I mentioned earlier, I debriefed with my team, some of the
Excellent.
chaplains, more experienced chaplains here, during the huddle. They talked about their own experiences, how such situations, and mentioned somebody can be in denial and how
Yes.
she was trying to hide something. So it helped me also learn from that experience. Because before then, I thought patients would just, open up and talk about. So sometimes they'll be talking about else things. They don't
Right.
hit the nail at the head. You know. So it was a
That's
learning
excellent.
opportunity for me.
That's excellent. I think the way you just said that, it demonstrates outcome 2A12, which talks about your flexible communication style. So 2A.12. I also think you had some trauma informed approach by not directly jumping in, by observing the triangulation, observing her anxiousness, which I also think was very good. And you used your authority with care. You know, I think that you did an excellent job of that as well. In addition to what you've already identified, working with your colleagues, teamwork and collaboration. Very good. Very good. Was there any place where your narrative history intersected with hers?
Yeah, when I was reflecting about the loss of the husband, and perhaps the possible grief she was dealing with, there's always an intersection. That counter transference was, you know, ready because I'm just out from uh, coming to terms with my grief. I didn't know it was there. I was denying it, and during the last unit, I faced it. I faced my fears. So, and if I see anybody passing through the same process, I readily connect. It throws me back to what I was coming from,
Hmm.
and I can, yeah, readily understand what they are dealing with.
What did you do with that when it came up for you in the moment?
Yeah, in the moment, it's often what it does is my empathic feelings will, you know, come to the fore. That's the immediate, before I start connecting probably other emotions, but empathy first of all comes in.
Okay. Very good. That's a healthy use of countertransference. Your ability to to demonstrate empathy. Yeah. How did you feel about the deflecting that you were experiencing? Did you take it personal?
Then, because I also knew I did that, I lived in denial.
Okay.
I didn't want to. That's part of why I'm in the United States, by the way, because I lost both my sisters back to back.
Mm,
Where I have three siblings, my brother, my two sisters, then and the last. So that's my brother, then my two sisters and myself. So both of them, the first one passed in 2000 and, 2021. Yeah,
oh,
she had breast cancer. Then 2022, my immediate sister passed. So just 1 year of each other, and it
wow.
was devastating. My world came to. So I told my bishop, um, let me take a break. And he permitted me, that's why I'm in the United States, to come for a sabbatical. So, but I didn't know I was dealing with, and I was as if, you know, moving normally. But during CPE sessions, the reality, I knew I needed therapy. And before I had to accept it, first of all, I had to come to terms with it. So all that process, we started with acceptance and all that. So before then, I was dealing with the denial. I
Mm,
was glossing over it, thinking, life goes on. But oh,
yeah.
so when anybody does that, especially like this, the one we're discussing now, the deflection. So I know I've been there. I was there at some point, and it's also part of the grieving process.
Hmm. That's another theory that you've applied to this visitation, those stages of grief, and the way in which you realize that negotiating and deflecting and denial, that's what I think it's called in the Kubler-Ross stage. It would be denial. So that's another theory that you use. That's great insight. So you recognized her deflection as a part of her grieving process. You recognize it from within yourself, and in that moment, you didn't make it about you. Instead, you demonstrated empathy for her. That's what I'm hearing you saying. What is your learning from that particular part of this visit? What do you now learn when you look back about that?
Well, I'm trying to. Our narrative history should also form part of our spiritual caregiving. So, and now and again, we dig into parenting systems, narrative history, in order to, you know, function as better caregivers.
Okay. So the narrative history is helpful for us to function as spiritual caregivers, especially in making our assessment. What did you learn about you and how you handled your countertransference and how you demonstrated empathy?
Yeah, I think before now I wasn't. I'm learning to be more vulnerable and use my also now I can use my vulnerability. You know,
You're breaking up a little bit. I heard you say, I'm learning to be more vulnerable. Okay, what did you say after?
so, so now I can use my vulnerability to use it as a tool in my spiritual care.
Well, that's wonderful. That do you appreciate how awesome that is? It is very awesome. So you've learned that you can use your vulnerability as a tool for spiritual care for others. Victor, that's awesome. That's a great learning. You can do it and you didn't break down. You can do it and you didn't go running out the room. Not that you've done those things before. I'm just saying you were able to remain present and engaged. That's no small thing. And you were able to be appropriately vulnerable and use your countertransference to demonstrate deep empathy and care and trauma-informed patience with her. You didn't rush in, say, stop deflecting. You didn't even allow however she was responding to your authority to change your empathy. You remain present and engaged. That's some good level 2B stuff. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you. All thanks to you. Thank you.
That's pretty awesome. And then to seek the consultation after to get more insight, that's very professional. Very professional. Where are you right now?
You know, I don't know whether during the midweek, mid-unit evaluation or final evaluation, are we going to present our Imago Day?
Yes. Yes.
Are we? Good. I
Yes.
think since we started conversing now, something is coming to my mind, and also the questions you've been asking, and these are deep questions. I see myself, you know, walking the labyrinth, intricate web of all of them are connected, and I have to find my way through it through careful assessment, moving from one room to another. A labyrinth. I don't know if I pronounced it well.
Yes.
There's confusion, yes, but there's order even within the confusion.
Mm.
So I didn't know this, but you are really pinpointing this out. We can now see the connection, how the dots are. If you look carefully, think deeply, you can make a connection. So
Yeah.
I think that's what I was trying to reflect on before you asked me where you at.
Mhm. Okay, that's helpful. There's vulnerability in that order as well. There's lots of vulnerability. It's not a straight line from start to finish. It is intentionally twists and turns in a circle and a circle. And in that space, there's vulnerability. Are you okay with feeling the vulnerability of both the affirmation of how you handled your countertransference and then feeling the feelings of your countertransference? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good place to be.
That's awesome to hear. You know, to say that's a good place to be sounds like healing to me. And you go to your head again. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely fine. I am so glad you were there for her and you allowed yourself to be fully there. It would have been easy, as you said, to get sucked into the triangle. So I love the connection with Imago Dei. Say more about that.
Yeah, I think I will reflect on that during my meditation so that I will get, you know, it should be because you also pointed it out that this level of CPE, this unit, we should do a lot about understanding the theories, using them in application, and also, so I'm very curious. So, like today, you've talked about the detachment theory, the um, grief, stages of grief, and the theories of denial and outcomes. You know, any of the theories, I told you, I mentioned it earlier, but I enjoyed the family uh, while we were discussing the
Family
movie,
systems.
the family
Hmm.
system theory. So I, I I want to really use them as part of achieving my goals for this unit. So I'm
Okay.
curious. I'm curious.
Can you apply some family systems theory to this particular visit?
Yeah, definitely some of the dynamics within the family setting played out within also this visit and encounter, and
Pull it
to
up.
see.
So some of the dynamics. Okay. Good.
Mhm. So of course she needed support. So part of and she was angling towards the neighbors, like I mentioned earlier, and also while trying to deflate further, she brought up her daughter, who she said was needing medical care, who was sick and all that. So she was using all those as cover. Um, so I could see within the systems theory, all that playing out within her, running rings around her personality, but she needed family as a coping system. She was clutching at straws at each point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the major dynamics in that systems theory, where we need within the family as as a support system. The family is a support system.
That's
So
very
those,
helpful. I love that description. She was clutching at straws because in family systems theory teaches us that when one member of the family, for example, as in this case, dies, the family roles shift. The system has to shift. And I love that the description of that you're making, that she was clutching after straws. Perhaps she's dealing with that shift in family roles since her husband's death. And I hear your observation that her concern may not only be about her daughter's health, but it also may be about something else, like unresolved family roles or expectations or guilt or whatever else. And so you had a sense there's something else going on here. And that's very good. In family systems theory, all of that falls under multi generational transmission process. Multi generational transmission process. And it's this pattern of emotional transmission across generations. So the daughter is sick. So one of the generation, the mother and the daughter. And the daughter's illness could reflect something else. And the father dies. So the whole dynamic of the family shifts. All that is multi generational transmission process. Very good observations. Very good observations. Let me see. I'm trying to connect as you requested with the theory. Um, Sometimes in family systems, according to family systems theory, when we observe that a person is unable to reflect about themselves, right? Their self reflection is very limited. Sometimes that gets called low differentiation, which falls under differentiation of self. And so when they're unable to have self reflection, we call it low differentiation. So that's another potential insight from family systems theory based on what you observe. So, what you were doing as a chaplain, you were modeling differentiation. You were staying emotionally present without becoming emotionally reactive. So, you were modeling differentiation. That's good. Yourself from the situation. And her inability to talk about herself would be low differentiation. She just was overwhelmed perhaps by the emotional content, and so she avoids looking at herself. You modeled differentiation because you were able to look at yourself, observe your countertransference, use it as a source for empathy, and remain emotionally grounded and present. That's good self differentiation. So this is her situation is not my situation, but it is bringing up similar feelings that I can use to have empathy. I know what it is to lose a loved one. So that's good self differentiation. Excellent. So you got family systems theory going on. Good.
Thank
Very,
you, Dana. Thank you. This is wonderful. Didactics, wonderful.
you are doing it. Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Was there anything else you wanted to cover today?
No, this is good. Let me chew on this. I want to
Chew
dig
on that.
further. Yeah.
How are you feeling in our group with our group dynamics as we are forming as a group?
Oh, come on. I think I mentioned it. I said is my safe space, and I want to also, you know, use it further and further because I need it. It makes for growth.
Good. I'm glad to hear that it's feeling that way, and we are um I think moving in a good direction. So I'm glad to hear you're having a good experience of it. Very good. Very good. Well, if you like, we can stop here unless there's something
Um,
else you want to explore.
Thank you. I'm
You
good.
got a lot to chew on. I
Thank you,
want to give
Donna.
I want to give you one more thing just to put it on your radar. You have a level 2 project.
Okay,
So start thinking about what you want that project to be.
okay,
Okay. And that would be a good thing for us to talk about in the next IS if you would like. All
please.
right.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
I will
I
see you
appreciate it.
tomorrow. All
Have a
right. Thank
beautiful
you.
week. Thank
You
you.
too.